Good evening, guys, and welcome back to the FM Scout YouTube channel with me, Teach FM. This is a continuation of our current series Into the Future, in which we take Football Manager 2017 wonder kids that start in the game and see where their career takes them when left to the game alone. Today's episode is on wingers, and as you can see, today's winger is Anthony Martial, of course already a household name. Now, before we get into how Martial does in his career, I would like to point you in the direction of my YouTube channel. As you can see, I'm currently running a career with Manchester United, so if you could maybe pop along, take a view of a couple of videos, and maybe even drop a cheeky little sub, that would be grand. So as we can see, it's Anthony Martial, a household name as I've already said, and a wonder kid in every description. As you can see, he also starts with his best position being out on the left wing, and the stats that go with that are, needless to say, already fantastic. Maybe his crossing being a little bit weak at 10, but with the likes of his dribbling, his acceleration and pace all being in the highs at 17s and 18s, he is the perfect wonder kid to start out on the left-hand side. However, of course, he would be a very expensive purchase, but if you were to be looking at Anthony Martial, it would be because you're already with a European super team. Therefore, as we know, money talks, and there would be a chance to buy him. So as we take a look at his career stats, of course, last year he did make the move to Manchester United for £36 million, but we are believing that it has the ability to rise to around about £60 million being a United fan. But either way, he did have a grand first season at Manchester United. He did make 31 appearances and scoring 11 goals in the league, and some might even say single-handedly gave Manchester United somewhat of a decent finish last year. His career did start down with Lyon. As you can see, he was soon spotted by AS Monaco, who paid £4.2 million. Now, back then, that will have been a chronic amount of money to spend on such a young player. But it did prove to be a good move because, as you can see, 35 appearances in his first full season at Monaco. This is what alerted Manchester United to him, and they of course broke records to take him to Old Trafford. And when the game starts, guys, Martial has already made some decent achievements. As we can see, he did pick up European Golden Boy. He was of course an FA Cup winner in 2016 with Manchester United, and did finish up runner-up in the Euros with France. So as the series is called Into the Future, guys, that's exactly what we'll do now. We'll take a quick glance at the stats again just to refresh our memories, and we will go forward 5 years and see what Martial has done with his career since then. So as we can see, guys, the first thing that is evident is that Martial has made the move to Real Madrid. But before we go in to see how much maybe the move happened for, we will take a look at his stats and any possible changes that have happened since his time at Manchester United. Now, one thing that I noticed straight away would be that his dribbling has dropped one, as has his finishing. His composure's remained the same, and his decisions has climbed, which is good for him. But once again, he has taken a slight dip, dropping down to 17 in his acceleration, and his determination remaining at 15. Now, I know that there is a little bit of debate going around at the moment as to whether determination does sort of quantify that a wonder kid is going to do better than not, but the way I view it, if a player is determined, then he's going to be a lot more professional in his role. If he's going to be a lot more professional, then you would imagine that he's going to train harder, and therefore if he trains harder, he's going to get better. Now, not to say that with each and every single save, things don't change. And that's one thing I do want to add into this video at this point, guys, is that, of course, Football Manager, you would never get the same outcome in any save. One thing I would say, though, is that if you were to take a punt on someone like Martial or one of the other wonder kids, game time is always a factor in development. And as we know, clubs don't always play players in almost every game that they can. They'll sometimes only have 15 or 20 appearances in a season, and in my opinion, that does stunt their growth. But other than that, as we can see, generally speaking, he's not really I would say he's been a bit stale. Nothing's really changed all that much. But we will take a look at his history. We'll see how much he moved away from Manchester United for, and we will see when it happened. So as we can see, guys, in the first season of the game, Martial did make 29 Premier League appearances for Manchester United, scoring 4 goals, getting 2 assists and 1 player of the match, with an average rating of 6.75, which, let's be honest, is not the greatest. However, he then went on to the second season and pretty much within reason, did the same with 32 Premier League appearances, 7 goals, 2 assists, and only ended with a 6.79 average rate. Now, at which point it does beg the question why Real Madrid would come knocking to the tune of 78 million quid. The reasons they have is all theirs. However, nonetheless, he made the move, £78 million across to Spain, and pretty much in his first season at Real Madrid, continued on the same path, 27 appearances, 9 goals, only with a 7.06 rating. However, at that point, it does begin to climb, and this is when Martial really must have started coming into his own. He then went on to have 2 pretty good seasons at Real Madrid, getting a little bit better in his final season for goals and assists, ending with a 7.44 in the 1920 season and a 7.20 in the 2021 season. So as we can see in Martial's landmarks since we were last here, he did go on and win the Europa League with Manchester United, then went on to win the Super Cup the following year with Manchester United, at which point it went stale for 3 years. But then in 2020, he won La Liga with Real Madrid, then he went on to win the Supercopa de España with Real Madrid, and then won the league again with Real Madrid, before going on to win the European International League with France. So all in all, not a bad 5 years. He's managed to pick up himself, a couple of European titles. He's managed to win a cup, 2 leagues, and of course an international cup. It's got to be winner, winner, chicken dinner for Martial all day long there. So what we'll do now, guys, is once again head into the future. We'll give it another 5 years and see where Martial ends up this time. So here we are, guys, in the year 2026, 10 years following on from when Martial started the game at Manchester United. And as we can see, he now plays for Inter Milan. Maybe a step down, but of course, we don't really know how the game's progressed in 10 years, so we won't make that assumption. Certainly not. But one thing we can see that, of course, at the age of 30 is started to go down somewhat in his stats, and well, therefore you may say in some stats he certainly didn't progress too much. His crossing only ever making it to 12, assuming that he is now on a sort of downward spiral, and of course they won't get any better. His acceleration and pace remaining at 17 from last year. However, his agility and balance has increased to 18 and 16. His dribbling falling off the pace somewhat to 14, which is a massive drop from 17. His first touch climbing, however, his decisions also going up, and his off the ball going up. So as he's matured somewhat, he's putting more into his mental game. Hopefully he's being taught that well in the places that matter. He's still playing out as an inside forward, and he has a current market value of 19 million, earning £190,000 a week. So Inter Milan are paying him more than Madrid did. They were on 175 grand a week. But what we'll do is we'll take a look at his history, see when he moved to Inter Milan and how he's got on there since. And as you can see, guys, since the last time we were here, he did go on to spend 2 more seasons at Real Madrid. The first of those, he only ended with a 7.05 rating, scoring 7 goals in the league and assisting 6, which isn't too bad based on the fact that he only had 22 starts. And then in his following season, his starts started to dwindle with only 13 in the league. Did come up with a very, very respectable 7.34, getting 6 goals and 3 assists in those 13 games. But nonetheless, Manchester United were the team that came knocking once more. Having sold Martial for 78 million, they did come back with an offer of 60 million, which of course Real Madrid must have accepted, and he made the move back to Manchester. And it looked as though Martial played much the same again when he went back to Manchester. As we can see, the average ratings peaking at 7.08, and the goals and assists pretty much remaining. He got into double figures one more time while at Manchester United until we got to the 25-26 season, where he had a bit of a stinker with 27 appearances and only 3 goals and 3 assists coming in that. At which point, obviously Manchester United weren't really interested in keeping him in the squad, and Inter Milan came knocking with a paltry sum of £10 million. It looks as though at the moment, of course, he's not even made an appearance as of yet for Inter Milan. So what we'll do is we'll go take a look at his achievements, what he managed to win at Real Madrid since his last update, and what he managed to win at Manchester United. So as we can see, guys, he did go on to win another Supercopa de España with Real Madrid, and then managed to win the Champions League, which is no mean feat. Of course, it's his first Champions League in his career. And then he went on to win the World Cup with France, which must have been a crowning achievement for him. He then went on to win the World Club Cup with Real Madrid, before winning the Euros with France yet again for the second time, and he then went on to win the Premier League with Manchester United, before winning the Confederations Cups in 2025 with France yet again. All in all, a trophy-laden career for a 30-year-old Anthony Martial, but the question is, has he managed to pick up any sort of outstanding awards on a personal level? And I will say, guys, that I've just had a look through the awards there, and other than picking up sort of part of team of the season or inducted into team's best 11, unfortunately for Martial, no big awards, no huge player of the year awards, certainly no European or world player of the year awards, which as one of the best wonder kids available on the game is a little disappointing. But what we will do, guys, is we will go forward into the future another 5 years, and we will see where Martial ended his career, and just whether in his twilight stages, whether he managed to pick up any more silverware or awards. So there we have it, guys. I had to go forward 6.5 years. Martial did retire in the December of 2031. And rather than fading into the darkness and disappearing into nowhere, Martial has become a director of football. Of course, he's very young, not really got the best stats to be a director of football, but it is nice to see him stay within the game. What we'll do is we'll just take a quick look at his history, because as we know, he did move to Inter Milan but hadn't played a game yet. And as we can see, guys, his move to Inter Milan, he actually started playing some of his best football in his later years in life. With 34 appearances and 13 goals and 10 assists in his first season, that's possibly, although the average rating's at 7.14, arguably maybe one of his better seasons throughout his whole career. He then went on to have another season at Inter Milan, in which he got 34 appearances with 10 goals and 3 assists with 5 player of the matches with a 7.2 rating. And then Manchester City came knocking, and I bet the United fans hated that. He did make the move for 3.4 million, and looking at it, was heavily featured in City's first team. In his first year getting 35 appearances, his second year getting 30 appearances, and in his third year only managing 11. As we can see, he also scored 6 goals in each of his first 2 seasons, 4 assists in each of his first 2 seasons, with average ratings of the late 60s. So of course at this point he'll have been getting pretty old, he'll have been well into his mid-30s. But nonetheless, he seemed to do a job for City. In his final season with those 11 appearances, he got donuts. I mean, there is just zeros, nothing but zeros, with a 6.57 rating, before making a move out to the United Arab Emirates, where I'm sure they paid him a load of wonga to come and ply his trade out there. He played quite well for them at a 7.36 average rating in his first season and a 7.02 average rating in his second season, before announcing his retirement in the December. So on that note, guys, we will go take a look at his career achievements and see whether he managed to win any more silverware in the twilight years of his career. As we can see, guys, he did remain with the French national team in 2027, managing to win the European International League, and then in 2029 managed to pick up a Premier League with Manchester City, meaning he'd done it with both the Manchester clubs during his career. I've also just taken a quick look at his awards, guys, on the hope that maybe, just maybe, he managed to pick himself up a big accolade, a personal accolade, but unfortunately for Martial in this career, that was not the case. Lots of team of the weeks and lots of player of the months and inducted into players' best 11, but to be honest, no big accolades. So unfortunately in this episode we won't be seeing any Ballon d'Ors or anything like that. Martial seemed to have what was really arguably a little bit of a stale career. One thing I did just want to check before we end this episode is how many appearances Martial had, how many goals he scored, and just what his transfer value was in total for his whole career. And we can see at the bottom of the screen now, guys, Martial did make a total of 537 league appearances in his career, scoring 160 goals, getting 59 assists and getting 19 player of the matches with a 7.02 average rating. And astoundingly, Martial's transfer totals come in at £194 million, which is crackers. I mean, the lad didn't have the best of careers, but on this look into the future, it could change. It could run the same thing again and it could be blistering with Ballon d'Ors hanging out of his pockets. But as we know, it is always different with FM, and we are working on this one, where I would say he wasn't that great. That's not to say if you guys didn't go to sign him, you couldn't turn him into an absolute star, and I'm sure you can. Now, before I close off the video, guys, I did just want to point you in the direction of fmscout.com, where you can get all the latest news on Football Manager and, of course, tactics, graphics, badges, you name it, they're all available there. So don't forget to go check it out. I've been Teach FM, and thanks for checking out the video. Catch you later.